All right, welcome back, everyone. For round 6, we have a battle of the Ryans. Ryan Jellison versus Ryan Sersen. Ryan Jellison playing Darkside, and Ryan Sersen playing Light. And if you give me one moment, it looks like we've got a Ryan Jellison playing a Malls Chambers SSA with the Cloud City Drain -1 site. That looks like
Y-Ops.
Yeah, against Yavin 4. So it looks like we've got a KDY combat response security precautions start. And against Yavin 4. So it looks like it should be a pretty space heavy matchup. And Yavin 4 is the more of the standard, I would say, Yavin 4 that we've seen that starts insurrection instead of that the what chance do we have that didn't really do anything a couple games ago. But interestingly, it's a insurrection non-combo, which I think indicates we'll see a bunch of ability 2 rebel pilots.
Yeah, would be my guess.
Stuff like that. But back when Yavin 4 Ops first came out, and nobody really had figured out the deck yet, I used to play it with, I got like Crix Maydeen and all the scouts, and I would pull the Yavin 4 docking bay and just move everybody over and play like close air support and the unique Z95s to try to get ridiculous power at the docking bay, and it did not work very well, but it was a fun deck to experiment with.
The current builds
No
longer playing battleground sites.
Yeah, no reason you should play battleground sites in this deck. Playing in both theaters has always been my personal preference, just because I hate paying for drains, but no, it's certainly one of those decks where you don't need to.
It looks like for...
But speaking of... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say for Jellison, he's got Kuat Drive Yards combat response and something special. So we will see a fair amount of space combat and interaction in this matchup as opposed to the last Y-Ops game that we covered.
Yeah, for sure. This should definitely be interactive. Well, speaking of experimental decks, Casey, did you know that you can play Star Wars CCG online for free?
What?
Without needing to have any physical cards or cut out any V-slips. Yes, include those 6 Luke Skywalker Jedi Knights that you never had the money to collect. Play it for free online in a competitive or casual manner against anyone in the world in all formats, retro, open, sealed, anytime at play.starwarsccg.org.
No Disney cards?
You can play in a no Disney cards format if you would like to. Play.starwarsccg.org.
All right, we've got Gurion Stinger to Kashyyyk as the first play of the game. It's nice because it helps you start getting set up without any threat of getting beaten down. Good turn 1 play.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't see... Is that a Stinger V?
Can't tell.
Because with combat response, I almost think it would be. I do enjoy Stinger V.
Wouldn't it have to be with combat response?
I mean, he could just have a regular Stinger in the deck that he happened to open hand.
Right, okay.
And he happened to open hand with Guri. So I'm assuming
it's V. And no Maul turn 1. But we do see Dodona turn 1 for the Yavin 4 deck. Gold leader in gold 1.
So that Stinger V up there, in addition to just like not being a beatdown risk, is also some nice card advantage.
Absolutely.
at the start of the game. You get to draw the top card of your deck every control phase. That's yours and theirs. Unless Leo or Chewie is on the table, then it's the top card of your force pile instead, which is still okay. And there's Mustafar.
Mustafar, and what is that? That's Maul. That has to be Maul. AI Maul.
And, well, I haven't seen that AI.
It is Maul.
EPP Maul with robot legs.
I'm on a roll.
Dan Tartaglione just walked out here and yelled that he's on a roll, which presumably means that he has won 2 games in a row.
It's the Hollow Theater Heroes AI Maul, Batmouse Maul.
Okay. Oh, the Batmouse Maul, yeah. Batmaul.
Could you put the deck initials next to name? Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we can do that. There have been matchups today where that hasn't been practical, just because names can be long. But
can we also flip them because Jellison's at the bottom of the screen and Sersen's at the top?
we can do that as well.
Sorry to make you do all that work.
No.
Our crack computer wizard, Lenny.
Not at all. All right.
I think Ryan Sersen's gemp name is just R. Sersen, and
Jellison's is SAC and then
Yeah.
a bunch of numbers.
Yep. Yes, it is. It's not a Shadow Collective deck. It's just an SSA Maul's Chambers deck.
The advantage of doing that is you still get Maul and you still get his really good text at the chambers, but then you can just play whatever other cards you want.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get the benefits of SSA either. You want me to squish this?
Squish it in, yeah.
I don't know if I can do that.
All right.
All right, that's gonna have to do.
We tried.
Solid Snack saying Maul's Chambers decks tend to be a heavy space that he's seen. I would agree with that. I think you get Maul and Maul's Chambers and another site that's usually like a 2/1 site that's drain -1 for the opponent, and you get a couple starting effects that. Some good ways to help space. I think Maul's text is really, it's good everywhere, but it's really good in space, I think.
It's really good against things like X-Wing cannons.
Yep. And just, I think, anything that can reduce the opponent's destinies is going to be even more impactful in space because the vast majority of things you can put in space are going to have some immunity. Whereas on the ground, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but...
I don't know if this is the Dark Waters deck. It might be.
If it is, we probably won't see it this game because it's Yavin 4 Ops. There may not be a battleground site
on the table this whole game,
except for the one that Erica is currently occupying. So if we see anything on the ground, it would be like EPP Ray coming down to that site or something like that.
Which would be a good play in this game as opposed to in the last game.
For sure. It still feels weird to me, Casey. I don't know how you feel about this, but it feels so weird to me just seeing Mustafar by itself on the table naked.
Without the sight.
Without the sight, because I'm so used to just the system being able to pull the sight.
So
and it's like they go together.
Ryan Sersen drew a 5 to liberate Yavin 4, and Jellison had to stack a card there, so we have our first liberated system. Yeah, the tie cannons were peeled off the top.
The cannons were peeled to the drain.
And here's red 5.
That could be important, but is that a haven on Yavin 4 as well?
It must be, I'm assuming. Simple tricks coming out from Sersen.
Mm-hmm.
No escape the cannons. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. No escape the cannons is no-brainer play. Not that Ryan Jellison is a no-brainer, but
yep.
Like
Yes,
I could have made that play.
Accelerate for the bridge.
Yep.
The giant pile of cards in the top left corner.
That appears to be
the shields.
Yeah, Ryan Sersen's shields.
Yes, the defensive shields. Dominic, those were introduced in 2001 in the next to last set that Decipher came out with before the end of the game.
And he's using an AI for his starting effect that looks a little bit like that.
Barrier's going to get grabbed here, it appears. Saber 1, Baron Fell, and cannons.
Yep.
Coming down and getting barriered at Yavin 4.
That's a good barrier, especially knowing that he has the cannons in hand.
Looks like Onyx 2 with, is that Merrick? He put them both down simultaneously, so it was hard to see.
I think that's the, what's Merrick's matching ship now?
Isn't it Onyx 2 or is it Onyx 1?
No, it's a new...
That's a new one. We got the fighters coming in, Admiral's Order as well. Alpha 1. Thank you, James.
Alpha 1. I think that's probably what that is, because Onyx 2 doesn't have pilot capacity.
Oh, he's got a second.
He's got the second cannon.
Cannons.
I was gonna say I wasn't sure about like no escaping the cannons and then deploying Saber 1. I think my preference might have been to deploy Saber 1, make sure it doesn't get barriered, and then if it doesn't get barriered, then no escape the cannons and deploy them. Otherwise,
I think you want the cannons on Saber 1 regardless. I really think you want them on Saber 1 regardless. We're going to see a battle and we're going to see an organized attack. He does have 3 force to shoot the cannons, which is what it costs from Alpha 1.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an all power to respond to the organized attack. Or was that for the...
That was his destiny for the cannons.
Weapon destiny, okay. So red 5
I think he
is
only
shot lost. Did he only spend 1?
He might have. Did he cancel the barrier and we just didn't see the canceller?
I don't know.
How many defensive shields are you allowed to have? With the current, with the virtual starting effects, you can have an unlimited number, but you can only play 4 per game unless you have cards that let you get more, which most decks are playing at least one of.
You can keep all of the defensive shields under your starting effect. You can play 4 of them in a single game, unless you play a card that allows you to play additional ones.
But as they were originally printed in 2001 with those starting effects, you could have 3.
Yes, you could have 10 under the effect
Yeah.
and play 3 per game. But that just led to a meta where everyone was just trying to guess with
Like,
their defensive shields.
do
and
all
it
the broken
became-
stuff you could, and to
Yeah.
try to,
It was not a good situation.
yeah.
So this was a pretty successful battle for.
A really good battle
Jellison.
for Ryan, yeah.
It was a really bad battle for Ryan too.
Yep. It was an exact level of Ryan entropy.
Hey Dan, how are you?
Hey,
I have beer.
we're watching a couple of Ryans.
So, how are you differentiating between the two Ryans?
Sometimes we're not.
sometimes
we're
we're
just
not, yeah.
forgetting. Like, oh, Ryan did this.
Have you given away a token for this round?
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Would you like to?
Stunning leader.
All right, stunning leader.
Because
is
I
your
reverse
token.
beat down Jeff Levine.
Reverse beatdown.
Yeah.
So like,
I stunning leader.
Offensive stunning leader.
you yanked him up.
Oh, he tried to beat down you and you stunning leadered,
And then I came
you.
down with like multiple dudes and
Yep.
just like caused 6 overflow on his Qui-Gon
I was
with that
thinking-
Serene Jedi.
What's the opposite of a beatdown? A yank up.
I'll show you later.
All right. Just promise to be gentle.
No. I'll be as gentle as Ryan is being to Ryan.
Downbeat, says
You,
Dorf.
you know, Dan, as he likes to remind us, is the streaming lead, so
Yes.
which makes him technically our boss. And I think
Theoretically.
this now qualifies as a hostile work environment.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel unsafe.
You're getting very nervous right now.
I feel unsafe.
Any issues?
No.
Everybody having fun?
Sersen's gonna peel a bunch of cards here. This is
There are no issues and everybody's having fun, Dan. But I'll tell you what, if you want to print virtual slips for free to play with your buddies, you can just access StarWarsCCG.org and click on the Print Cards button in the upper right to search for the virtual slips you need to create a customized PDF of only the cards you need to print. So no more printing out entire sets and then having just all this paper lying around.
Have you guys been doing the deck tech videos?
We haven't. I haven't been able to get them to
yeah.
work.
They won't load.
You just click on the eyeball.
Yeah, they won't load.
Oh, I don't.
He's the tech guy.
Okay.
I'm not.
Have you been showing the different break videos? Or the break screens?
Yeah,
screens,
we've
yeah.
been showing the break screen between. I just haven't been. Yeah, I haven't. I'm stupid and I haven't figured out how to get. The
We're gonna
videos.
have fun deck tech videos for you after this round, in between rounds for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, we'll try to figure something out. So you're not just looking at a screen that says we're on break, because I'm an idiot and haven't been able to get basic stuff to work.
So if you're Ryan Sersen, how do you come back from this now?
I don't know.
It's gonna start with
Yeah.
well, it's
I just.
oh, does he have any force saved? So gold leader, gold 1v, and it does not appear that Ryan Jellison has any force saved.
Yeah, that's not. That's
not
bad.
That's not terrible. It'd be better if you could come down with cannons and shoot lost one of the ships.
Yeah, because
But-
like my worry here, like, is with no Haven, like, yeah, like he can't shoot and he can't draw Destiny, but you're also only drawing one, and he's got some pretty significant immunity. Like, unless you know exactly what's on top, it's
Did he have a card that let him activate a force there? He just shot lost the gold leader, gold 1.
Yeah, it seems that way. I didn't see what.
I'm
he
not sure what
played.
allowed him to. Maybe he had dark time. Did he have a dark time? He said. Dorsch said yes. He had a
Yeah,
dark time.
he had a dark time.
That's a huge blowout.
To activate a force,
Wow.
shot gold leader lost, drew Destiny anyway, cleared Radiant 7,
That's incredible.
Saber 1 stuck around.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, yeah, no, if you're,
Because he's draining now.
yeah, I think if you're Ryan Sersen now,
He's gonna get Erica retrieval.
we're gonna see a handshake any minute here.
He should still have a fair amount of life force left, but yeah. It's a
But I
tough
don't-
spot to come
yeah.
back from. I mean, this is Worlds. You're not conceding,
Yeah.
but it's a tough spot. We'll give you another system from Ryan Jellison. It's Naboo. He's going to play out Boba Fett.
Yeah, go get Slave
Go
1.
get Slave 1 with combat response.
Or is he just... Yeah, there it is.
I believe both Ryans are 4-1. Is that right?
I believe so. This is...
This is table 4. So
yeah, in theory, this is table number 4. So I would think either they're both 5-1, or they're both 4-2, or they're both up there.
well, it's game 6, so they're not
Yeah.
4-2.
Right. Sorry. It's that time of day.
They're both 4-1.
They're both 4-1.
pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be table 4 if they were 3-2.
Well, they might. I don't know, it depends how many.
One of them might be 3.
Depends how many X1s we have, because we only have Justin Desai the only person without a loss, and then we could have
you're only 5-0.
7 more X and 1s, so they might be 3-2. Yeah, we no longer use strength of schedule for Swiss events. We only use it for match play. I'm sorry, we use differential for match play. We use strength of schedule for Swiss events.
Yeah. Tomorrow, for the match play games tomorrow, diff will matter,
Yes.
but not today. Jellison's 4-1, Sersen's 3-2.
Okay. So it's a pair down.
Yeah. Which does happen because
Especially in the even numbered games.
yeah, especially because sometimes like you need to play light, this other person needs to play light also, so you can't play each other, so you both have to play other people.
Here's it was Harkstef and Overseer to Naboo, Colonel Jendon and Onyx 1 coming down for Ryan with more guns.
Yep.
All the guns. Not sure I saw anything in Ryan Sersen's hand that will help with that.
So in looking back,
He's going to battle. Oh, no, he's just going to move over.
looking back, if you're Ryan Jellison, you see the starting cards flipped over for this matchup. You see that your opponent's playing Yavin 4 Ops. You know what's in your deck.
Mhm.
Are you just salivating at that? Because yes, the exact thing that my deck is set up to just beat to a pulp.
I would assume, but I obviously have not tested this matchup on either side, so I don't, I couldn't tell you
Yeah.
for sure, but that's how it looks to us from having watched this game.
Yeah.
I'm a little unclear on why Ryan Jellison played out Naboo, because it did just give another system for Ryan Sersen to run around at, but
Yeah, I'm not sure it was necessary, but I'm not sure it matters at this stage of the game. Get a 0 out of your deck just in case.
all right. Well, Leia's going to come down and wipe out Erica's presence. Can she still retrieve through Leia? I think she
Can
can,
Erica
right?
still retrieve
She's
through
still
Leia?
present. She doesn't have presence, but she's present at the battleground.
I believe that's right.
Well, I knew eventually we'd get into a present versus presence
Yeah,
issue
I
on
know.
stream.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. Diff is just like, you get to the point where the game is, you know who's going to win, you know who's going to lose, and you're just like scouring through every method you can find to put an interrupt back on your used pile or retrieve one more force or something.
Differential does matter if the game goes to time.
Yeah.
If the games are timed to an hour, so if the games today go to time,
you'll count up life force.
Count up life force. The player
sides.
with more life force wins.
Yeah. But I prefer just like, look, I enjoy the game a lot better when, like, if you know you lose, you can just concede and go do something else. Because, like, it's 8 hours, 8 games is a lot, and it can be a long day.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, sometimes if you've got a game that gets a couple of turns in and you know you're going to lose and it's over and you made some bad mistakes or something like that, or it's just a bad matchup, it's like, hey, you know what? It's been 20 minutes, but you're going to win this one, and let's go get lunch. And
so Ryan Jellison there on his turn did retrieve with Erica. He did not drain because he would have had to pay 3 per system, 6 total, for the force drains. Instead, he deploys Lord Sidious down to the Cloud City site, so now he has presence there, and he's going to be able to battle Leia. And he does initiate battle at the Cloud City site. Draws a 6 for Destiny. Ryan Sersen draws a 4 for Destiny. Leia's going to die. And decision time for Ryan Jellison is he has to lose 1 character because Erica's immune less than 4. Does he want to lose Sidious or does he want to lose Erica? Or is Erica immune less than 5?
no, Erica's less than 4.
Erica's less than 4, so he's got to lose somebody. And he's trying to... Or not. Can we pull up Erica for a sec? Erica V. Yeah, less than 4. Maybe there's a -1 somewhere. Can anyone think of it? Oh, Maul.
Duh.
Yep.
Yeah, that's been happening all game, and we just haven't really needed to remark on it because it's just been...
Maul.
The walk of shame.
Yeah.
He's dropping.
I will say there are a lot of decks. I wasn't huge on the meta coming into today. There are a lot of decks, especially for dark side. I knew that if I was going to play Yoda Muning for light side. There's the handshake. Ryan Jellison's going to win. But I really wasn't sure what I wanted to play for dark side. There have been a lot of decks that I've seen today. This Maul deck, the Bring 'Em Before Me deck that Steve Baroni was playing, that I think are really cool decks that I hadn't really seen previously. That I would love to try out now that I'm excited to go back and try out on Gemp.
Definitely some stuff here that looks interesting. I'm not sure exactly what kind of deck it's going to be, but I'd want to build something with Weather Vane in it.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to see if we can get these deck techs up and running. We got a little bit of time before the next game.
See if we can do that. So, pick one of those and hit the eyeball.
I'm Kendall Hallman, and today I'm talking about Old Allies. Old Allies is a light side objective themed after the events of The Force Awakens and the characters from the sequel trilogy. In addition, the deck is able to run the Falcon Junkyard Garbage, a double-sided card that starts on table and can either function as a starship or a vehicle. The activation package includes 2 Jakku locations downloadable with your objective, as well as Naboo Boss Nass chambers uploadable with Wiza Got a Grand Army. Some builds will run a 3rd Jakku location instead of the Boss Nass chambers. Walkling rounds out the activation package. Your other 2 starting effects will be a Brave Resistance, which you can use to trade in characters you don't want for characters that you do want, and Strike Planning, which you will use to upload General Calrissian and General Organa as your first actions of the game. If you draw one of them in your opening hand, upload the other and plan to pitch General Organa to a Brave Resistance for Poe or another key card, and get her back with the second Strike Planning pull next turn. Sometimes you can even use Rey's Used Pile Search to get General Organa back after pitching her, giving you another opportunity to search for a Resistance character the following turn. The basic early game strategy is to get your locations out, flip the objective as quickly as possible, and then be defensive. This isn't a deck where you want to be initiating a lot of battles. You can deploy Rey from reserve deck with Rey's encampment at a discount, so between that, strike planning, a brave resistance, and rebel leadership, you should be able to get the right characters and be able to flip your objective around turn 2. Something to keep in mind with the Falcon Junkyard Garbage. It starts out landed as a starship and can only flip once per turn. So don't accidentally try to flip it before you have it take off to Jakku, or else you'll be stuck with a vehicle for an extra turn. Also, if there's any chance your opponent might play Zuckuss in Mist Hunter, make sure you've got 7 total ability piloting the Falcon, or you've got the potential of being blown out and getting overflowed in space before you know it. Often this means having Rey move to the Falcon's site and having her and General Calrissian pilot the Falcon, though there are a plethora of other options. The most likely decks to play Zuckuss and Mist Hunter include Carbon Chamber Testing, Court of the Vile Gangster, and Shadow Collective. No need to worry if Darkseid is playing Star Destroyers. This deck cannot play Luke, Hark, Seth, or Jedi, but it still has a powerful character package. Your Resistance mains like Solo, General Organa, and Chewie with Bowcaster are generally the best versions of those characters. Other Resistance characters like Rose Tycho, Finn, and Poe can be great for support. If a game stalls out, Rose's once per turn retrieval paired with BB-8's ping damage can add up to create a huge differential. Most of the rest of the characters are rebels who help Captain Hera Syndulla be able to add a battle destiny and can be downloaded by Blue 11. Your space package is fairly sparse and relies on good pilots like Solo, Poe, and Anakin Skywalker Padawan Learner to hold Jakku. But you should be able to hold space in most matchups. Besides the Falcon, this version of the deck, played by Justin Desai at the 2022 NPC, plays a non-unique Corellian Corvette, foil preferred, that Admiral Raddus can find for you, and Leia's Resistance Transport, which downloads a female Resistance character. The rest of the deck is mostly red cards with an emphasis on damage reduction. Menace fades, Projection with Skywalker, it's a hit and it could be worse. Work with your objective's ability to reduce force drains, and the combination of Rose and BB-8 that I previously mentioned to give you an edge in the damage race. Should your opponent come after you, which they probably will at some point, you've got stacks of versatile characters with meaningful game text, as well as interrupts and the ability to reduce your opponent's battle destiny. That said, you don't have access to big dudes with lightsabers, so fighting can be an uphill battle in a lot of matchups. OA isn't an easy deck to play with. There's nothing I can say in this 5-minute video that will replace playing game after game with the deck. You need to have a plan for every matchup and learn the deck inside and out. But if played right, this is one of those decks that can make your opponent feel like there was nothing they could do to stop you.
Hi, I'm Chris Hull, and I'm going to talk about I Want That Map objective, released in Virtual Set 8. This is a deck that's very near and dear to my heart. It was the final deck I played in the 2021 GIMP PC, as well as the primary deck I used in last year's OCS playoffs. The deck is primarily composed of First Order characters and starships, with a few outside characters sprinkled in. This deck has some amazing flipside benefits, including recurring interrupts from Lost Pile, forcing Lightside to use or lose one force to draw battle destinies at select locations, and shutting off all opponents' force retrieval. You heard that right. All opponents' force retrieval is cancelled when you are flipped, unless BB-8 is on table. As of set 17, the typical build uses the starting interrupt, "You Know What I've Come For," to deploy Bow to the First Order, the Dead Speak, Jakku Landing Site, and Exegol Sith Temple. Additional activation is available from Jakku's system, which is deployed by the landing site, Kijimi, deployed by the Dead Speak, and Blockade Flagship Bridge, which is deployed by We Must Accelerate Our Plans. Additional Force icons in the deck come from your two Dark Jedi Masters, Emperor Palpatine Returned, and Supreme Leader Snoke. Variations on the deck also include a second Blockade Flagship site as an extra battleground. When you deploy this objective, the opponent will need to choose a Resistance character to make the Resistance agent. If they decline to do so, or if they have no Resistance characters in their deck, the Resistance agent will automatically become Luke. If the agent is Luke, he loses all immunity to attrition for remainder of game. Your path to victory is determined by your effectiveness in keeping this Resistance agent off the table. First turn startup typically begins with pulling the Finalizer from reserve deck with Bow to the First Order, before you activate any force. From here you have a few different options. The safest option is to deploy the Emperor to Sith Temple, and deploy Kijimi from reserve deck. If you're facing a deck that has the sequel trilogy Luke, you may be better served going to the Tuanul Village to block his deployment there. In order to flip and turn on those cool bonuses I spoke about earlier, you need to control two battlegrounds with First Order characters, and the Resistance agent must not be present at a site. The deck provides the opportunity for used pile pulls with Bow to the First Order, but only when those characters are deployed to an Episode 7 battleground. So you will have to weigh the benefits of deploying to your own locations versus going to an opponent's non-Episode 7 location for a beatdown. Typical beatdown cards include Ellis Hellrot, Sniper and Dark Strike, and You Are Beaten on the ground. Some decks also include Lateral Damage, Overwhelmed, I've Lost R2, and or Gravity Shadow for a space beatdown. As I mentioned earlier, while flipped and Kylo on table, you can recur interrupts from your Lost pile, in a somewhat similar but still unique mirror to Lightside's Watch Your Step objective. For newer players looking to build competitive decks, I Want That Map is an affordable option. Only a few support cards, like Mara Jade with Lightsaber and Force Push, are likely to test the budget, and neither of those is important enough that you couldn't swap something else in their place.
Classic trilogy, sequel, prequel. Hey, if you think that episode 1 has any redeeming qualities, then I've got an objective for you. So the hyperdrive generator is gone, and we'll need a new one virtual, or hyperdrive V for short. It's a niche objective that plays mainly with characters from the prequel saga. As the most restrictive character base of all light-side objectives, limiting to episode 1 Jedi, Republic characters, unique aliens, and Republic starships. Despite its drawbacks, it can be quite interactive and formidable in both battle, on space, and in ground, and can get locations out for turn 1 activation, which means yes, no Destiny Zeros drawn for Destiny. Furthermore, the objective is a simple one. All you gotta do is battle, overtake, and hold Tatooine Watto's Junkyard. Hyperdrive V starts with the objective on table. Credits will do fine. Tatooine Watto's Junkyard and Tatooine City Outskirts. You'll then play heading the medical frigate to deploy Jedi Business, We're Leaving, and Walkling V. The objective is simple. You need to stack 4 cars and credits will do fine by winning battles and force draining at the junkyard. Your first turn, you will use your objectives text before activating any cards taken to hand in Episode 1 system. You're looking for Camino. Later on, in turn 1, deploy it and use 1 force to deploy the related Camino site. You can then use Jedi Business to pull Tatooine Mos Espa. But if you have the right cards in hand and your opponent is giving you a few force, you can alternatively, instead of Mos Espa, apply early pressure by deploying a Jedi or Obi-Wan from hand to the junkyard, or using Tatooine City Outskirts text to deploy a Jedi and then move the Jedi over to the junkyard, in which case you would then use Jedi business to arm your character with the lightsaber instead of deploying the Mos Espa sight. It will likely be that your opponent wants to contest the junkyard. While you occupy your force generation as +2, and your force drains will often hurt as your characters are usually armed with lightsabers. Credits will do fine, also essentially increases your force drains by 1, as your opponent needs to stack a card there each time you initiate the drain. This force loss cannot be reduced or cancelled. The need for your opponent to contest the junkyard is even greater when you find one of your multiple copies of Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan Learner V, the deck engine. Each time a card is stacked and credits will do fine, he allows you to search your reserve deck and take any one non-character card. Locations, weapons, devices, interrupts, effects, and starships are all potential cards you can grab. This even works when you're using World Leaving V or Master Qui-Gon to stack a card from your own lost pile or hand respectively. If you're battling, or likely to battle, typically your trick cards are useful to grab with Obi-Wan, otherwise you can start piecing together your fleet to play in space. Once you flip, you should have the junkyard well established with multiple characters there, in either another site or system with that you also control. And then you can afford to spread to a third battleground or contest your opponent at their battlegrounds. You'll find that you can often win drain wars as your lightsabers are adding the drains, Padme Nabari is adding an additional damage, and you can retrieve cards into your use pile or hand whenever you battle after you draw a battle destiny. In building the deck, you're looking to include multiple copies of Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan Learner V. I also like to include 2 Qui-Gons, both Master Qui-Gon, who is helpful to flip your objective against a variety of dark decks, especially Hunt Down, and Master Qui-Gon can also combo with Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan Learner V to search your deck even more and get the key cards you need. I also like to play 1 copy of Qui-Gon Jinn Serene Jedi, who's a great battler, especially alone. I play Padme Nabari, non-V from Tatooine, which allows me to get Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan out earlier, and often allowing me to choose the Qui-Gon that fits best for that situation. Other characters, other beefy Republic and Jedi characters, we're talking about Mace Windu V, your choice of Yoda, Lando with Axe, Captain Rex, 501st Legion. All great cards to include in this deck. In space, you're looking to add in Rick and Queen's Royal Starship, an Acclamator class assault ship, and the Azure Angel. Your pilots are a bit of a premium in this deck, so keep a lookout for them and ensure you have at least one you can commit in space to your hand. Definitely include Solo, as he's a potential resistance agent versus map. Anakin Skywalker Padawan Learner, Luke Clune V, Dash Rendar V, and Din Djarin are good pilots that often also can go to ground and be equally good there. Once you're flipped, you will find that We're Leaving can find you Rick and Queen's Royal Starship, if Obi-Wan hasn't already found it, or retrieve it in the hand each turn. Simply give it your choice of pilot, will turn it into a high-power multiple destiny ship pretty quick, and adds to your activation during your opponent's turn. It is truly a beast. If you're expecting pesky space interrupts, the Azure Angel can help out. You can get around anything that limits your total battle destiny to 1 draw, with the Acclamator class assault ship adding to attrition or often using Dash Rendar V. Even if your opponent isn't contesting space, you can take advantage of losing a ship from hand to retrieve it back into hand to lose again using We're Leaving V, especially using the activation during your opponent's turn that I mentioned from Queen's Royal Starship. The deck should run plenty of trick cards, including your usual Clash of Sabers, Blaster Deflection, Rebel Barrier, Alter, Jedi Levitation, and so forth. Don't be afraid to include 1 copy of that interrupt or device that you love, like Obi-Wan's Journal, as Obi-Wan can find it with his text. One of the cool cards that you get access to in this deck is Are You Brain Dead? The card is basically a Destiny 5 Haujiks for you. It must be played in a battle that you lose, but you can lose 1 Jedi Council member to satisfy all battle damage and attrition. It can also be played in space, and can even be played on a hit Jedi Council member. With your lightsabers and weapons in this deck, and the additional battle destiny draws you get, being able to keep some of your other characters on table for a counter beat by using this card is amazing. Be wary though, it's not immune to sense, so watch out particularly for Kir Kanos who can cancel it. One thing you need to be especially wary of is undercover spies. They can stop your progress of the junkyard cold. Free Ride V, Quite a Mercenary V, which also can cancel a Smuggler's Game text, and Sorry About the Mess combo are cards you will need to find if your opponent is running undercover spies. For this reason, I often deploy Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan Learner V to the junkyard. and I'll wait to stack a card with We're Leaving until my opponent has deployed to the site. Then during their deploy phase, when I know what cards my opponent is using and committing, I'll use We're Leaving and Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan Learner V to grab the card that I need to use, be it a battle card or something to deal with the undercover spots. Many players like to alternatively play We Sagata Grand Army to deploy Boss Nass's Chambers, and you can also use that interrupt with Jar Jar for undercover spies, so consider running this with potentially Episode 1 Tatooine instead as an alternative activation package, although you will need to cut a lot of cards to accomplish it. The deck can struggle against weapons in space, and also against combat vehicles. It does give up more dark side icons than light side decks should, but otherwise the deck should provide plenty of battles for each player. With your high immunity, high defense value characters, lightsabers, and battle tricks, along with a competent but compact space package and late game retrieval, it should provide for plenty of fun. Enjoy!
Hello everyone, this is James Martin, also known as Solid Snack, and I'm talking about the frozen food option of Star Wars CCG, also known as Echo Base Operations. Older players will remember Echo Base Operations as one of the first deck strategies Decipher came out with. The card has not been virtualized as a testament to its good design. You'll be pleased to know that this deck is still a formidable and playable one in the open format, with this deck making a top 8 cut at Worlds in 2021. Many players will already have the cards in their old collections, as there are only a couple key Episode 1 cards, and many of the cards in this deck were available in black and white border, both in English and Japanese, and some of the key cards receive reflections foils. Also, most of the cards I'm talking about can be had for pennies on the dollar, and there are only 3 to 5 expensive cards in the deck, depending on your style of play. The premise of the deck is the same as before. Build your base, establish a space presence, and then try to hold a site on the ground. If your opponent plays the space, your job is to punish that play with as much overwhelming power as possible. The starting cards are the Hoth System and Careful Planning V. Careful Planning V allows you to deploy the main power generators and do the Hoth Energy Shield rules. You'll then be able to get the 4th marker, provided the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th marker aren't already on table from your opponent. You'll want to read up about the Hoth Energy Shield rules as they've changed since the Decipher era. The shield protects the 1st through 3rd marker and all your echo sites, so that means that your opponent cannot deploy directly to those sites, and as a result those sites are never battlegrounds while the shield is active. Your 3 effects are a new secret base, which allows you to pull echo sites, as well as the Echo Base Operations effect, and then will allow you to get your systems later after you've built your base. Your second effect you're looking for is Walkling. This is probably the most expensive card in the deck, but it's an important one for most light side decks here. Your force generation is going to be +1. You can place the effect out of play to retrieve a force, and once per game you can use 3 force to upload an effect that has no deploy cost and deploys on another card. You're looking at Haven or Projection of a Skywalker for that pull. The last one's going to be Strike Planning. Strike Planning allows you to twice per game take a general into hand, which is going to be General Carlos Rican or General Dodonna in this deck. And your opponent's force generation on Endor is cancelled unless Endor operations is on table. Turn 1 is typical. Remember, with your pulls here, you're going to want to take the cards into hand before you activate to have as much of a chance to get your key cards into hand. You're going to pull Echo Sites that you may not have in your hand already. Obviously prioritize the War Room because it gives you additional force, and General Carlos Rican deploys -1 to a War Room. You're also going to want to pull your generals turn 1. Carlos Rican's awesome because he deploys cheap to the War Room. While he's at the War Room, your capital ships can't be targeted by weapons, which includes the Super Laser. He has that sort of power. And your Rebels and T-47s at same related Rebel-based locations may move for free to same or related locations. That allows your characters to move around Hoth and for your characters to shuttle down from Hoth for cheap. General Dodonna is pretty good because he gets you a Y-Wing, typically Gold Leader and Gold 1, which will deploy cheap with all of your effects and has some awesome power. At any time, if you get Rebel Leadership, or if you don't have Rebel Leadership because it's too expensive, use Critical Error Reveal as the underlying card for the combo card to pull Admiral Raddus. while Rebel Leadership is probably a little bit better because it allows you to add a battle destiny, you'll find that in your matchups you aren't typically looking to add battle destinies, you're typically looking to limit your opponent, so the combo card is just as good. At any rate, if you do get this, you're going to want to pull Admiral Raddus. Admiral Raddus goes down for free, making it a lot easier to deploy Echo Base operations, and he pulls a Hammerhead Corvette, which is the Light Maker, which is really nice because it cancels your opponent's immunity to attrition. So, once you deploy your 2 sites and your 2 generals, you're going to pass turn. Turn 2 is when you're going to try to flip Echo Base, or not flip, but deploy Echo Base operations. You're going to pull your site that you, hopefully, if you don't have it in your hand already, you're going to pull your last site and as well as the Echo Base operations. Keep in mind, all you need to do is occupy 3 Echo sites to deploy Echo Base operations. So if you didn't get Raddus for whatever reason, you could deploy, say, like a Y-Wing, your Gold Leader and Gold 1 to the Echo Docking Bay, or your 2 vehicles, Dash and Rove 12, or Blue 11 to the Docking Bay in order to get those 3 sites to deploy Echo Base operations. Turn 2, though, you are going to get Echo Base operations down and try to get Haven on Hoth, and then deploy as much of your Starship fleet to Hoth that you have. So you should at least have in your hand Gold Leader and Gold 1, which should go down for free because it's -1 due to Echo Base operations and -2 due to Haven, as well as the Light Maker, which will go down to 2 force. So if nothing else, you'll at least have those items there. Again, you see there that your deploy is -1 at every system location, your force trains are +2, and your total power is +3 in battles at all system locations when you deploy Echo Base operations. Turn 3, you're going to want to, if you have the cards for it, establish a presence on ground. Keep in mind, you can take advantage of your benefit of Echo Base operations as well as Haven to deploy your characters to Hoth. Your pilots are going to go down for -2, starships are going to go down for -3, even your vehicles will deploy -1 to Haven here, so you could deploy something like Dash and Rogue 12 for cheaper and then shuttle down using General Carlos Rican's text for free to the 4th marker there. You're going to want some combination of, say, like Hera, Solo, and Rey to kind of hold the 4th marker site there. From there, you're going to establish a 2nd system, maybe a 3rd, depending on your cards in hand. Try to outdamage your opponent, all while the time mitigating damage with cards such as It Could Be Worse, We're Doomed, and Control Tunnel Visions for nasty force drains. Of course, if your opponent ever comes down to a system, you just want to deck them with as many cards as possible by deploying your overwhelming fleet and outpowering them. A couple of tips for this deck. You have a couple ships that deploy as a react, including Red 8, Spiral, and Tycho and Green Squadron 3. Because they deploy as a react, it's often a good idea to hold these cards back and react to where your opponent is. If your opponent never comes, then it's good to remove these cards from your hand and lose them to force drains, and therefore it prevents you from over deploying, which you may have a propensity to do because everything seems to deploy very cheap. Holding these cards for when you really need them, for when your opponent actually does come down in battle, is going to be helpful to make sure that, again, you don't over deploy and then you can overwhelm your opponent once they do come down. What's nice about this deck is it does have some flexibility here. You can mix and match capital ships and starfighters as you please. If you would like to, as a second option here for your fleet, you can use General Wallach's Blissix. General Blissix V essentially prevents your opponent from drawing multiple battle destinies where you have 2 piloted snub fighters. So if you find that you're playing a lot of X-Wings, Y-Wings, A-Wings, B-Wings, Z95s even, you can use him, and he can you can potentially even cut out your commands. So if you like using those sort of starships, consider using him, and then maybe throwing some fun items like X-wing laser cannons to pair well with those starfighters that you're using. If you're using capital ships, make sure you take advantage of General Carl Regan's text to prevent weapons fire on them. Maybe using somebody like Bail Organa to prevent weapons from attacking your corvettes at other locations would be useful there. What's nice is the deck can accommodate a wide variety of starship types. I've even seen Home 1 and Admiral Akbar in these decks very easily. Another popular build uses T-47 speeders. So instead of the package that we have here with Dash and Rogue 12 and Blue 11, as well as Solo, Rey, and Poe, you can instead use Commander Luke with Echo Base Garrison. The nice thing about Echo Base Garrison is your established secret base can pull him, or pull this effect, and then it allows you to get Hoth Luke, Special Edition Wedge, which they virtualized and is really good, Zev or Hobby, and then you'll use some combination of Commander Luke, who pulls T-47s. There you go. Commander Luke, you can see uploads a speeder or car with T-47 in game text during your control phase, or even combined fleet action as an Admiral's Order here. Once per turn during your deploy phase, you may deploy one combat vehicle from reserve deck. This also limits battle destinies at sites related to systems you occupy, which cuts the potential danger at the 4th marker there. So this is an alternate build you can use by building those speeders into this deck as something else for you can use as a ground package. Essentially, you'll be able to pull any of your pilots using Echo Base Garrison, and then either use Commander Luke or combined fleet action to pull your speeders, and that would be something where you can use to deploy and hold the 4th marker. Typically, Luke, Rogue 1, Wedge, and Rogue 3 are good enough to hold that site. The deck can struggle against fast damage, so losing a key card early can prevent you from playing EBO at all. Hunt Down Virtual is a terrible matchup for this deck, as can be Walkers if you don't have the right cards. Still, just about against any other deck that can remain competitive, and you should find that ruling the sky should be no issue. With a bit of playing, you'll be able to switch in and out cards that suit your style, be it Starship Weapons, Incom Engineer for added battle destiny all throughout Hoth, or for more ground punch. The deck does have a lot of longevity. The deck as played here has Luke Skywalker for some additional retrieval, Walker sighting for retrieval that your opponent will want to play code clearance for. As I mentioned earlier, it could be worse. Control tunnel vision, we're doomed to limit damage. So when it gets down to those last few cards, it can stick around for a long time here. Undercover spies are also great because they're typically not doing anything more than deploying to your 4th marker, so your undercover spies will help you mitigate damage at other locations. Again, you'll be able to switch in and out your spicy tech. You can see this deck has Lieutenant Tarn Myson, who's a CCG favorite, as well as proton torpedoes to really hammer those ships that hold lots of pilots, say like the Executor or something like that. Again, it'll be able to suit whatever build you have and cards in your pool, and I hope you enjoy the deck.
Hey there, Star Wars players. I'm Kendall Hallman, and today I'm going to talk about Court of the Vile Gangster. Court is a deck that originated in Enhanced Jabba's Palace that lets you play all of the best bounty hunters and aliens. Based on Tatooine, its key benefits include a +2 to forfeit of all your bounty hunters, the ability to deploy independent starships and docking bays from your reserve deck, and making your opponent lose a force at the end of their deploy phase if they don't come after you on Tatooine. Weirdly, you lose the ability to pull the ships and docking bays if you flip, so most decks stick on the 0 side of the objective. Still, it's a thematic deck that can hold its own on ground and in space, and play fan favorite characters from Boba Fett to Jabba to Mara Jade. The typical list starts prepared defenses with Wipe Them Out All of Them, Jabba's Haven V, and Battle Order and First Strike. Additional activation will be the Passenger deck, pulled by Twi'lek Advisor V, Nal Hutta, pulled by Jabba's Haven V, and 2 non-battleground docking bays. I suggest Coruscant and Mustafar. Mustafar is especially important because it has my name on it. For characters, depending on playstyle and personal preference, the deck could run as few as 20 or as many as 37 characters. Scum and Villainy limits the deck's character selection to aliens and droids. Key characters include Jabba the Hutt V, who pulls Scum and Villainy, Lady Proxima, who helps get those low destiny characters out of your deck and into your hand, Bounty Hunters to take advantage of the forfeit bonus, droids to protect you from Leia Rebel Princess, good pilots like Woof V, and characters that protect Jabba like Velkan Tazari. Starships almost always include Ellison Hinthra and Jabba's Space Cruiser, as well as some combination of Dengar and Punishing One, Zuckuss and Mist Hunter, Stinger, and any other decent independent ship you can think of. Red cards are mostly cards to help in battle, like Hidden Weapons and Jabba's Through With You, as well as defensive cards like Imperial Barrier, None Shall Pass, and Stunning Leader. Note on None Shall Pass, always consider how many rebels you expect in the meta when deciding whether and how many copies to play. Starting the game, you will usually want to get Jabba out on your first turn to pull Scum and Villainy, making your aliens deploy -1 and allowing you to retrieve 2 every time you initiate battle. Just be careful and make sure you have some protection in hand, especially against a mains deck. If you have any doubt that you can hold the site, don't be afraid to lose a force to your objective the first turn. Most games, you'll pull Nal Hutta and a docking bay for activation, but in some matchups where your opponent plays exactly one system, you won't want to deploy Nal Hutta if you think you can win with your space package and don't want to give Lightside a place to run. With so many characters deploying for -1, it's very easy to over-deploy with this deck. Remember that as important as it is for you, the audience chamber is only a drain of 1. So if your opponent can set up on their own turf, you'll need to be able to come after them. Depending on the matchup, your opponent may go all in at the audience chamber, completely ignore the audience chamber, or somewhere in between. With practice, you'll be able to identify the threat and respond appropriately. In space, you want to stack as many characters with relevant game text and/or high forfeit as you can. If played right, Court can win in space, or at least force the opponent to commit more resources than they would like, and then lose the damage race. In general, Court is a straightforward, well-rounded deck that's great for new players and veterans alike. It's rarely the best deck in the meta, but it's also almost always in the conversation. If you're concerned about the cost of cards, it's relatively affordable aside from Boba Fett Bounty Hunter, P-59, and Force Push, but those are all pretty good cards to have in your collection anyway. Chris Kelly will often talk about how the best thing in Star Wars CCG is swinging lightsabers with Jedi. Court does the one thing that's even better. It kills Jedi with bounty hunters.